Welcome to Off Topic, our stupendous sports podcast with Tim and Matt, where we always go off topic. Okay, we're going to talk hockey.
Okay.
Hockey and the big news in hockey everybody's talking about is the number one prospect in the world, Ivan Demidov, has finished his career in Russia and has signed an entry-level 3-year contract with the Montreal Canadiens. He touched down at Pearson International Airport in Ottawa on Friday night. Very exciting. You see the picture on the left, that's the fans in the airport going to greet him in Toronto. And he did not play last night against the Leafs. He was in the press box. I mean, he's got jet lag. He hasn't even practiced yet.
Yeah.
But this kid, by all accounts, is the real deal. He's considered the number one prospect in the world. And Montreal got him 5th overall last year. And there were some concerns about him going to Russia and signing a Russian contract and getting mirrored up and all that.
Yeah.
In the KHL, it did not happen. SKA, or SKA as it's called, it was his team, were actually really classy about the whole thing. They developed him properly. He did not play a top line, but that means he didn't play a lot of games, so he didn't get hurt.
Yeah.
But he really put on a showcase in a lot of games, and now he's a Hab. Talk about when he might play again. He might play against Chicago, I think.
On the 16th.
On the 16th, which is what, Tuesday? Monday, Tuesday?
Wednesday.
So that'll get a couple of practices in. He'll get acclimated,
Yeah.
jet lagged over, all that kind of stuff. And I'm so pumped.
They got to find 2 people to keep up with him on his line because the kid's fast.
Yeah.
And he's a great hockey player. I'm really happy for the Canadians that they have this player that's coming up that's going to make him relevant again.
Whoa. Whoa.
But here's the thing.
That was a little low. That crossed a bit of a line.
His Russian team, SKA, didn't make the playoffs.
No.
And this is how it all worked out.
Yes.
Was they were eliminated from the playoffs. Their season ended. They didn't have to release him until the end of the year. But they were really good about it because they knew where he wanted to go.
Yeah.
And it was to the NHL. So they said, well, here, go get your feet under you for the rest of this year. Playoffs if they make it. And then
They should make it.
then he's got 3-year entry-level contract with Montreal. That doesn't kick in until next year. This is
No, I think
top.
they sacrifice the first year if he skates up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
And they just don't
wow.
care. They just don't care. They just want him here.
Yeah.
And other teams will do that.
Yeah.
The caveat in the contract, because they have been negotiating, is he can't get sent to the AHL if things don't work out. He has to go back to Europe. And that's the catch.
Yeah.
By all counts, he won't be, and I'm willing to bet they'll just put him in the press box.
Yeah. Over.
He's not going anywhere.
Yeah. But he can go back and forth between the KHL and the NHL.
If he wants, yeah. But he won't be going to the AHL. So
Yeah.
he's still technically under
SKA.
contract with SKA.
Yeah.
That's the catch.
Yeah. So, which is fine. I think he's going to do perfectly fine in Montreal. I mean, you've got a great young team there with that goalie,
Dobish.
and then you've got Caulfield and Suzuki.
Yeah.
You got this guy coming up,
Patrick
Hudson.
Well, Lane Hudson.
Lane Hudson, who's just crazy on his
Should
own.
win the Calder.
And nobody even saw that one coming.
No.
No one thought that. He's just been phenomenal this year.
He's short. That's the difference.
Yeah.
They got him 2nd overall.
The thing that
Or in the
Habs
second round, pardon.
The thing that Habs don't have is size. Like all the guys we just named are little.
Yeah.
So
Well, Nick Suzuki's 6'2".
but he's slight.
Yeah. He's not a big hulking guy. They signed a kid from the Vancouver Giants, probably going to the AHL. He's 6'4".
Yeah.
Big, strong guy. They got to get a little more physical.
Yeah.
I watched the last 2 games. They flat against Ottawa. They won. Let me put it in context. They're on the cusp of a playoff spot right now. Okay, so they won 6 in a row.
Yes.
They beat weaker teams,
Right.
but they won. God love them, they won. And then they played Ottawa on Friday, and the Senators, congratulations, are in the playoffs for the first time in 8 years.
Yep.
There have been some rough years in Ottawa for hockey fans, and they're in the playoffs. Ottawa was just ready to go. They are so pumped. They are so dialed in. and Montreal was just flat. Monpo had a bad game. Everybody had a bad game. They lost. Last night, it showed their weakness because they played the Leafs, and really Montreal has one legit scoring line, which is Cole Caulfield, Yurjov, Slafkovsky, and Nick Suzuki at center. And if you shut down that line, their offense kind of disappears. So by the third period, Toronto had 34 shots on net, and Montreal had 12. They outshot them 3-1. They lost 1-0 in overtime to the Leafs, which is pretty monumental. Jacob Dobish, the Czech goalie they have, was just lights out. But, if they shut down the big line, there's not a lot of offense, not a lot of scoring, and that's their weakness. And they're hoping this Debnadov kid coming up with the second line with Newhook and Patrick Laine can ignite a bit.
Yeah.
But a lot of things have to happen. So they needed another center because Kirby Dach, they traded for a few years ago, just can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
Off-season knee surgery yet again. Season shut down. So
here's kind of where we're sitting right now.
pardon me.
Is that Montreal got 2 games left. They got Chicago and Carolina.
They should win one of those games.
They should win both of those games. Now, Carolina's a playoff team, but it's also going to be their last game of the season.
They're not going to dress their starters.
They're not going to push it, right?
No.
Columbus has 3 games left. Now, Montreal's at 88 points. Columbus is at 83.
Yeah.
If Montreal loses their last 2,
Yeah.
they stay at 88. And Columbus wins their last 3, they go to 89 points. Montreal's out.
Yeah.
Right? So, and if Montreal only gets 1 point,
They're in.
Columbus will beat them on wins.
Oh, right.
Right? So, because they'll end up with 40 wins, and Canadians would be 39 and 39 wins, right? So they'll take them out on wins. So Montreal's technically got to win one of their last 2
They do.
games, or Columbus has to lose.
Yeah.
If Columbus loses one of their games, then they're out.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting race to the finals here.
Yeah, I think the Habs felt the pressure, and you have to remind yourself they're a young team. Like the average age is like 25.
Right.
They're a young team, and you saw that Friday against Ottawa, and then they're vulnerable on offense, which you saw Saturday against Toronto.
Yes.
So they're not going all the way. They might. I give them a 40% chance of an upset in the first round. They're not going all the way this year, but that's okay because they're still rebuilding. They're still technically in the rebuild mode.
Yeah, and they're going to have to face the Capitals, who are a very strong team.
They got a really good goalie.
Yeah.
They got I'm not sure Ovechkin's going to do much in the playoffs. I think he's.
But they haven't counted. He hasn't been their driver all year.
No.
The whole Ovechkin thing was him breaking the record. The rest of the team has been very solid all year. So
and
Ovechkin's
they're well
been
coached.
decent, well coached, and Ovechkin's still a star. So you can't pass him up.
Show up to watch Ovi.
So last show we had to talk about playoffs, and you're like, top 8 should just be it.
I don't understand the playoff format. Just give me top 8 in the conference.
But we don't. But it's not the conference. There's 2 divisions inside the conference.
Math. I don't understand.
It's
math.
And it hurts poor Tim here. When you make the schedule, each conference plays the other conference a home and an away game.
Yes.
Right? So Montreal will play everybody in the Western Conference a home and an away game. Right? That accounts for 32 of your games. The other 50 games are broken up between the other division in your conference, and then in your conference. And what it really does is drives divisional rivalry.
Yes.
The reason they do the playoffs the way they do is to cut down on travel, but also to feed those divisional rivalries.
Yeah.
You want to see the Toronto Montreals.
Yeah.
You want to
Montreal
see the
Bostons.
Tampa Bay Floridas.
Yeah.
That makes sense for Tampa Bay and Florida to battle it out in Florida.
Yeah.
Because you get the fans get right into it, right? Boston and Detroit, when they used to be good and make the playoffs, that used to be fabulous. Boston against Detroit, right? Those are the things that people watch hockey to see. We want to see Vancouver, Calgary.
Yeah.
That's huge to us.
Battle of Alberta.
The Battle of Alberta, Edmonton. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the divisional play is very key for the season and the playoffs. So you have to have those divisions.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to go, all right, then top 4 in each division make it, right? But then your Habs don't make it because they're the wild card. They're the fifth. They're the fifth team in one division, right? So what they did,
I always said 1 to 8 in the conference, top 8 teams of the conference.
right? But then you're kicking out divisional play. You have an easy conference. You have a tough conference.
Right.
You know, so I like the way they set up. Top 3 in the conference.
My
make
team
it
might
in.
make the playoffs, so I'm happy.
Well, and they should.
They should beat Chicago.
They'll be the 8th best team.
Yeah.
Right? But when you really look at it, the top 3 teams in a conference, in a division, should be 3 of the 6 for the conference.
Sure.
Right? Like the top 3 in the East are in the, Central and the Pacific should both be the top 6 teams in the.
I can't even do long division anymore. So it's just.
So
I wanted to go 1 to 8 because it's easier for me to understand.
so the other side we
That's
can
the
look at.
only reason.
The other side we got to look at is our Vancouver Canucks, right? You know, he's a Habs fan. I'm a Kings fan. We're not really Canucks fans, but it is sad.
I've enjoyed some Canucks playoff hockey over the years. I really have.
So have I. Last year when they were against Edmonton, we had it going on up at the campsite.
Yeah.
We had people surrounding our picnic table. I had the TV on.
It's Vancouver is
electric.
It's a culture thing.
Yeah.
They just can't figure out the culture thing. And they had, Trevor Linden came in as, VP of hockey ops. He gave them the leadership and the identity that they hadn't had really ever. They see the sun every once in a while. They come in second.
Yeah.
But he's a bona fide, he's Johnny Canuck. Everybody loved Trevor Linden in his part of the world. He gave them the leadership. They had some great prospects coming up. And then Aquilino screwed up because we have to win now. And he's like, no. You
Yeah.
want to build a dynasty.
Build.
You want to build a foundation. Like, a sports franchise is a triangle, right?
Yeah.
You have it nice and thick on the bottom with all their prospects, and then the winning is the big league right at the top. And that's what he was doing. And they're like, no, trade, we got it. And he just said, I don't need these headaches. I got enough money.
Yeah.
I own about 15 apartment buildings in downtown Vancouver. I got my other things I can do, and off he goes. And so then the whole thing falls apart.
Well, so the Canucks showed last year that they were trending in the right direction. But the problem is, and I know you poo-poo this before, is the chemistry on the team wasn't right.
No.
And that there was a lot of finger pointing at the end of last year when they didn't make it in. By the team. This guy didn't pull his weight. That guy didn't pull his weight.
See, for me, that comes down to leadership.
Yep, 100%. And it becomes animosity.
Yeah.
That spilled over to this year. And by the time they tried to, they got therapists in there. They had
Pedersen, JT Miller. I'm a little off on chemistry because I know, like in the 70s when Montreal was winning, there was a real French-English divide in that dressing room.
Yeah.
English guy would have to room with a French guy and a fight would break out.
Yeah.
But they still won because who was in charge? Scotty Bowman.
Yep.
86 Mets. I mean, that was a train wreck of a team, and they won the World Series. They did not get along. It was a horrible group of individuals. Darryl Strawberry and
Gary Carter.
Dwight,
Gooden.
Doc Gooden were coked out of their minds.
Yeah.
It was terrible, you know.
It was Strawberry and Carter that argued and battled all the time.
Carter was a born-again Christian and taking the high road.
Yeah.
And Darryl Strawberry was this kid with all sorts of issues. The scars were there, and it was but they still won.
A ton of money.
Yeah, it was just a nightmare. But I don't get the chemistry thing. You're there to win. I mean, you hate each other off the ice. You better get in there on the ice.
That's
the lack of leadership, and it's always been there for Vancouver.
It's a lack of maturity too.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I mean, I don't know these people personally, but from what I understand, JT Miller, right, is not a very mature person. I mean, he got pissy that the Canucks weren't trading away somebody that he didn't like, so he took 3 weeks off.
Yeah.
In the middle of the season. It's horrible. I mean, like, that's a maturity thing, and that's an accountability thing. And so when you have good leadership, right? And I like Quinn Hughes. I think he's a great player, right? I think he's a young guy that they stuck the C on because he's a good hockey player.
Yeah.
But now he's got these men that are 5-6 years older than him that have been established in the league longer.
Yeah.
That are acting like children, and he's supposed to be the guy that gives them leadership.
I know.
You got to.
Brock Bozer might leave.
Yeah,
You know,
because
it's-
they can't get a contract together for him. Because he goes out there on the ice, he leaves it all on the ice. Like you've seen Besser play.
Yeah.
The guy's phenomenal out there. And then they're like, you're not doing enough.
yeah.
You're not worth that money. Well, why would you do that to him?
Yeah.
You know, the
He's
guy,
the future.
and he's not asking for a ton.
No.
So
He's the future. That's just the way it works in Vancouver. There's always drama.
yeah,
It's
it
a
is.
drama franchise, and it's just like, guys, everybody grow the hell up.
Their drafting is weird. I mean, you go back to
mediocre.
when they had Luongo when they drafted Schneider.
Yeah.
Like, why? You had Luongo at his prime.
Yeah, and then they traded Luongo because they wanted to keep Schneider. It's like, no,
Yeah.
get rid of Schneider.
Yeah.
Like he was the hot guy. You're going to get the biggest return for Schneider, and then you can turn to Luongo and say, you know what? You know, Carey Price. They had a problem in Montreal with Carey Price. Wasn't playing well, and then that young goalie from the Czech Republic, Hamlin or something, came along
yeah.
and got hot. And they turned around and they traded Hamlin.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, why the hell did you trade Price? Price is like, no, he's our guy. Trust me on this. He's our guy.
Yep.
And look what happened. He's going to the Hall of Fame. You know, he carried that team for decades, years. And Vancouver just can't figure this stuff out.
So
It's like you're all pros who've done hockey your whole lives. Why can't you figure this out? You know?
So we jump over to the Western Division, or Western Conference. You got Winnipeg, Dallas, and Colorado have sewed up spots.
Yeah.
Top three.
Are your Kings?
Vegas, Kings, Oilers tied
Okay.
up the top three in the Pacific Division, and those are the top 6 teams. Just by the way, in the Western Conference. So now
It's math. You're wasting your time telling me this is
we're
math.
filling out the wild card spots. You got Minnesota at 95 games, St. Louis at 94 or 95 points, St. Louis at 94, and then you got the Flames at 90. So Minnesota's only got one game left, so the best they could do is 97. St. Louis has 1 game left. The best they could do is 96. Calgary's got 3 games left.
Okay.
So they could end up 96, which would put them ahead of the Blues, right? So it's really tight there right now. Now, I think the Blues would still win. I'm pretty sure that Calgary's eliminated if they don't win all 3,
Yeah.
or if the Blues win their last game. Yeah, if the Blues win their last game, then Calgary's eliminated because they'll have 44 wins and Calgary will only have 30.
Coming down the
41.
wire.
Yeah. So really, this last game that the Blues is going to play is going to be interesting because if they get a single point out of it, Calgary's eliminated. So,
Best thing about being a Calgary Flames fan is every year you get the Stampede. That's about it.
well, and, you know, with everything going on in the world, they're like, cheer for Canadian teams. No, we don't do that around here. We're rivals through and through. I'm not cheering. He's not cheering for Toronto.
No.
Ever.
No.
Ever.
I like the Jays, and that's it.
Yeah. He's not cheering
I want to
for
see
the Leafs.
Winnipeg. I want to see Winnipeg go all the way. If
I'd
there's
love to
any
see
Canadian,
Winnipeg. Yeah.
any Canadian team to go all the way that deserves to go all the way, it should be the Winnipeg Jets.
100%.
Go all the way. I'd love it if Winnipeg just went all the way. It would be really great.
I think everybody would love to see Winnipeg. In Canada would love to see Winnipeg because
Right.
Winnipeg's like your younger, smaller cousin finally doing good at a sport,
Yeah.
right? And you know, we're very, very impartial to them because they kind of sit in the middle. But you got Ottawa, Toronto, and Montreal on the east.
Yeah.
Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary on the west, and then Montreal just sitting in the middle,
Winnipeg.
right?
Winnipeg just sitting in the middle. Yeah.
Winnipeg sitting in the middle, and they're a fun team to watch. And that goalie's the Hellebuck's unbelievable.
He's the best goalie in the league. Best
So-
goalie in the league right now.
So it'd be interesting. I'd like to see. Do I want to see Calgary make it over St. Louis Blues? Probably.
Sure.
You know, it's the Blues. But do I really care if Calgary makes it or not? No.
Not really.
All I'm getting geared up for is round 4 of LA versus Edmonton in the first round of the playoffs. 4th year in a row. We're gonna win one of these, guys. We're gonna win one.
It's Montreal, Tampa. They beat Tampa once in the playoffs in 4 straight games. Their number 1 goalie had a dislocated elbow in the last game of the season. So they had to go with their backup, and Steven Stamkos was off with a broken leg. It's the only reason they won that series. They did it one time. And then, of course, they finally make it to the final the first time since '93. Who are they playing against? Tampa. It's like, no! Anybody but Tampa. 5 games later, the series is over. Like that. No!
So we're off next week because of Easter. When we come back,
Bunny.
and the season ends on Thursday this week, Thursday
Sure.
or Friday. So when we come back the week after, we're gonna be a week into the playoffs. So we'll be able to talk about, did the Habs make it or not?
I think they will make it. I don't think they're going to get out of the first round. They might, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
So did they make it or not? Which I
Yeah.
think, and I agree. I think they're going to make it too. I don't know
Yeah.
about the first round. We'll see how this Demidov goes and how they line up against Washington. And we're going to talk about whether my Kings are golfing already or do they have a chance to get into Edmonton this year. So
And how many games did it take Toronto to get eliminated? That'll be another topic.
well, Toronto, I mean, like, God.
I think it's
You
been
feel-
they've
feel
made
what
it
is-
to the first round. Made it out of the first round, I think, once in 20 years. I think it's got to be close to 20 years.
I think
They didn't make the playoffs for 9. Then they started making the playoffs, and they couldn't get out of the first round to save their lives. And they got lucky last year. They played the Tampa Bay,
yeah.
and the Lightning were just banged up. They'd been to the final so many times. They'd gone deep in the playoffs so many times, and they're just older and banged up.
Yeah.
And they just they went up 3-1 like they always do, or 3-0, and then puck bounced off Tavares' skate into the net, and they finally advanced, and then they got creamed by Florida. So who they play? I think they would play Florida, wouldn't they? Ottawa.
Toronto, Ottawa.
That'd be a good series.
And then Tampa, Florida. Tampa, Florida are going to play in the first round, and Toronto, Ottawa. If either Montreal or Columbus will play Washington.
Yeah.
Carolina will play New Jersey.
Okay.
So I mean, you got some good rivalry matchups going on there.
Yeah.
Toronto, Ottawa. That's going to be a great series.
That'll be a
because-
good series. I'm
Yeah.
pulling for the Sens.
Yeah,
If the
100%.
Sens and Winnipeg could go to the final, in this all the stuff that's going on, 2 small market teams going to the final, and they win, and that'd be just, it's like Team Canada winning at the Four Nations,
Yeah,
right? It was just
yeah.
the perfect timing. So yeah, poetic justice, as they like to call it.
Yeah, Winnipeg's going to have to face the Wild or the Blues. So, because if the Wild lose their last game and the Blues win, they'll jump ahead of them. So it'll be the Wild or the Blues.
I know one Blues fan. He grew up in St. Louis. He lives down in Washington State. Bill Bledsoe.
Yeah, Dallas, Colorado. That's old school rivalry right there because they used to be they used to be the two coming out of the Western Conference.
One was the Minnesota North Stars, and the other one was the Quebec Nordiques.
Yeah, Minnesota. Yeah, but after that, when they went to you had the Sakic Forsberg in Colorado, and you had the Brett Hall and Modano in Dallas.
Mike
and
Modano.
And they battled every year in the playoffs for most of the 90s into the 2000s.
It was great.
And it was great hockey. Pat Roy went there.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the
Terrible
goaltender.
trade.
Oh, I remember the goaltender in Dallas, but he was phenomenal as well. And they used to just battle. Those were great games. I love those games.
There were. Colorado, Detroit was good too. More fights in the stand. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, when that the one guy got hit from behind into the boards, because they're pretty mild games.
No, Claude Lemieux, was it Claude
Claude
Lemieux?
Lemieux ran the guy from behind.
Chris Draper.
into
Yeah.
the boards face first.
Yeah.
Right, and Chris Draper's on. They got a camera in his face, and he's got blood coming out of
He
him.
sleeps with a retainer permanently. He
Yeah.
screwed his job so badly he has to sleep with a retainer every night.
And he's like, it's not hockey. Look at my face. This isn't hockey. And the whole side of his face is hanging
It looked
down.
like he was having
Oh.
a stroke.
Yeah, it was horrible. I felt so bad for the guy. And Claude Lemieux, what, you got a game suspension? Two
Yeah,
game suspension?
terrible.
Nothing.
Terrible.
Smack on the wrist.
Terrible.
So, yeah.
Dirty. Okay, that
All right.
wraps it up. See you in 2 weeks. We'll have talk about the NFL draft, hockey, where my Habs are going, Demidov. Woo! Thank you for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and comment. Please tell us. We want to hear from you. Appreciate it. Okay, thanks for tuning in for Off Topic with Tim and Matt, where we always go
Off topic.
Woo!